This is episode 171 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 171 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Ansh Sach on the show, and Ansh is a guy that was listening to my podcast from nearly the beginning and decided to jump in, and he got into the real estate market in 2020, and now he's scaled his portfolio up over 20 doors. He just came in with approximately $70,000, and he really made that money work, refinanced, rolled it over, acquired more units. In this episode, we talk about the mindset and where he started, how to build teams, how to manage tenants, how to manage contractors, because Ansh started doing work himself. So he started being his own general contractor because he wanted to learn. Of course, when we do that, a lot of times we find out the quality is not that great because that's not our area of expertise. And he took that experience and learned from it, and he grew. So we talk a lot about finding your why in this episode and applying that to what you do in your everyday life and to the decisions we make to buy back our time. So it was a really good episode on how to take it to the next level, in my opinion, because if you can't get right with why it is that you want to be an investor and why it is that you do these things, it's going to be hard to be successful. So we all got to get in touch with our why. And this was a really great episode for digging into that and showing just what's possible when you really do nail it down. So I think there's a lot to be gleaned from this episode, and it's a little bit of a different flavor than what we normally do, which is why I really liked it. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Before we do, as always, I want to remind you that it's extremely helpful if you rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. 5-star would be greatly appreciated. And if you're on YouTube, a like, subscribe, and hitting the notification bell, as well as leaving a comment, would be really helpful. These things just help the algorithm get this podcast out to more people and hopefully help them as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into episode 171 with Ansh Sach. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Ansh Sach on the show, and we just went over that, so I know I pronounced it right. Thank you for being on the show. I know you're a longtime listener, and it's good to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, Andrew, to be here, be able to talk to you, be able to share my journey on your platform. I've been, and as you said, a long-time listener. I think going back 2.5 years when I started my journey. I've been listening to you since then, and you've been a huge inspiration, and I look forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember, back then, like probably before my Instagram was quite as busy, you were texting me some questions, and we were kind of going over stuff. When you were getting into your first properties, I think you did a joint venture to start, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So this is back in 2020. So I started my journey in Jan, and I think I got in touch with you somewhere in, I would say, September or October. That's kind of when I started learning about real estate in Canada and how things are done. And somebody pointed me in your direction. And so I bugged you a little bit, I would say. And then you opened up new sources for me. So I went in those directions. And then, I've not looked back since then.
Okay, yeah, glad to hear. Do you mind just giving a little bit of a summary of where you're at in real estate and what your background is, like how you came to this?
I'm actually, so in terms of real estate, maybe I'll just, give a little bit of background myself. Just a very normal guy. I, work 9 to 5 job with a bank. So nothing to do with real estate. I work in the area of data governance, kind of completely, separate. I have a small family. I have a wife, a kid, 4 years old. So I stay in Burlington, Ontario. Then I've got a younger brother in Toronto, and my parents are back in India. I came to Canada in 2014 to do my MBA at the Schulich School of Business. So kind of a typical immigrant story. And then we decided to settle here. I started my real estate journey in Jan of 2020, right before COVID, and I am going to close on 2 more properties in the next 2 months. So I'll be at a total of 27 units with those.
27 units. So from 0 to 27. And I think your first one was out not Waterdown. It was
Welland.
out Welland. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And is that where you're focused?
So most of my portfolio is in Welland. I actually, I think last year I picked one in London as well. But then between everything that I had in Welland and then this one in London, it was difficult to kind of manage the two. So I decided to sell that one off, I think late last year. And then now all of my portfolio is Welland, Port Colborne. And then the next one that I do is Hamilton. So all in this kind of area, which is kind of
Okay.
closer to me.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. It's nice to be able to focus, especially early on as you're getting your feet under you. Focus on area.
Yeah. And then, just building a power team in every city is very difficult. I mean, you know the process, but then to find the right people and get them together, and then you almost need everything to
All at
be,
once.
duplicated in every city.
Yeah.
I am not doing this full time, so it just became a little too much. Where if I had to, on a certain day run in to two places in different directions, it just became impossible. So I decided to let go of the London one, invested those funds back in Welland, and now I'm just, it's much easier to manage it now.
And are you primarily joint ventures at the moment?
No, so my first one was a joint venture, and then I did just one joint venture along the way with a friend who was interested in real estate, but everything else I just own personally.
And when you did the joint venture to start, was that you coming in as the money partner or you coming in as the active partner?
So it was a little bit of a different arrangement. It wasn't really, completely active versus completely passive. That was an arrangement with somebody who was a little ahead of me in the journey. So my condition was that I can bring in the funds, but I don't want to be completely passive. I want to be in the active side as well because I want to learn, because this is kind of the only one that I'm going to do that way, and then I'm going to go off my own. And he understood that. He agreed for me to be the active partner 50-50, and he was okay with also bringing in the funds 50-50. So we kind of split the whole deal right down the middle in a way.
Oh,
Everything
okay.
50.
That's a less common structure these days. So I mean,
Yeah,
I know
think
a lot of people want that, but that's not what a lot of people get.
It just happened that he was okay to do that. He was looking for somebody to take the mortgage, like mortgage qualification, which I had. So that was the one thing that I did more than anything else, but everything else was just split 50-50. I think, yeah, so it is uncommon. I haven't actually, and if somebody was to approach me today and do it, it's not easy to actually, have someone be really involved throughout the process and then teach them as you go. But yeah, he was good, and he helped me with the first one that we did.
Yeah, that's I feel like I know who you partnered with. Do I? No?
No, he's
No,
a
okay.
very silent investor. I feel he has
Okay,
a good
okay.
portfolio, but he's very silent otherwise.
I thought we had a common connection there, but I could be confusing things because this was a long time ago that we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did something similar for the Florida thing, although I came in as the money partner, but it was like that's my like price of admission. I came in as money partner and just so that
For
I
the
could learn,
first one, right?
make the contacts, because that's the key thing.
Right.
For me, like you said, the power team's the hard thing. And if you're your own general contractor, like I've always been, you need many people. It's not just one. You're not just, you're not just getting a general contractor. So I
Right.
sort of kind of morphed my model a little bit to actually allow to have a general contractor, which I've never really done, which anyone who's followed me knows that's not something that I took lightly,
It's
but
something you preach, and I think it's
yeah.
that's the advice I've actually implemented as well, where you cannot be a specialist and you cannot do everything.
Yeah.
And doing that first property where we didn't use a GC, I was kind of the GC myself, and we brought in trades. To be honest, by far that's the worst property we have in terms of the finishing. I've
Right,
done
and
the
it will
flooring
be.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've
It
done the
will be.
flooring, I've done the paint and everything. I know things don't line up, they're not the same
Yeah.
quality as they
You did it
should be.
yourself?
Yes, I did a lot of that
Oh
stuff
no,
myself.
that's not
So,
what I
so
ever suggested. Well, no, I have said I did jobs myself, but yes, you will suffer on quality when you do it, but you'll learn that way if you do a little bit
you
of it
learn that way,
yourself.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So then, when you connect with people who are doing those things for you, you know the
you know what
questions you
goes
want to
into it.
ask.
Yeah,
Yes, and you know the pricing, which definitely has changed a lot,
yeah.
since I did it. But still, you have some idea of where to
Mhm.
source the material from, what kind of work needs to go in, what does quality look like, and you can
Yeah.
ask those questions if you've done it at least once and seen it.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's definitely not recommended. It is a lot of work and
Oh
not the
yeah,
best
it's a ton
product.
of work. Yeah, the only way you can really do that is if you got the time, right? You will save a little bit of money. You'll get inferior finishes for the most part because most people just, you're not going to be great at something if you don't specialize. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like that is my path and how I started. Is it the best way? everyone's going to have their own answer. I don't like the quality you get. Like if I look back at my earlier projects, I'm like, ugh.
It's not the best.
But
I
it
know.
is why I learned, right? I learned through that. But I mean, I think the sweet spot is you have good trades that work for you, and then you can be your own GC and you just have trades that you quarterback to, which is sort of how I run my construction company now. But I'm not opposed if trust is the biggest element, right? If you can find a general contractor you feel like you can trust for however you arrive at that, and that's not something to be taken lightly, then that's like 99% of the battle. Then it actually could work. And I work out what I'm paying the GC in Florida, and it's not nothing. Like it's like $20,000 or $30,000 per house. That's their fee plus all the costs. So, but I mean, if they can eliminate me from the picture and I can still have a good build from somebody I trust, then that's a whole new game, which I've never really experienced. So I'm actually kind of pumped about that.
I am actually doing that. So since I did my first project, I would say in a way I bumped into this GC who did my next project after that. And then ever since we developed that relationship where I could completely trust him kind of running the show for me, so we're usually very detailed upfront where I tell him exactly what I want, how I want it. But then since we have done so many projects together, he knows pretty much everything. Every time we, encounter something new, he would ask usually, but otherwise he's been a huge, huge help. And now that I look, when I look back, I am, I'm okay to actually pay for whatever it takes for me to actually keep them in the business, because they've really helped me scale. They've actually helped me bring the stress down from the renovation part.
Yeah.
They've been good quality, on time, right throughout even COVID, when I heard other investors having issues around materials and supplies and labor. We had some challenges, but this guy actually helped me manage all of that. So huge shout out to him, because he's really helped me keep my head straight and keep looking at opportunities. But the day-to-day renovations and everything, I can easily give it to him, and then I know that he will deliver.
It's only so many hours in the day, right?
Yeah.
I think biggest thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My biggest pet peeve from doing the work myself was, I had an electrician, a plumber, and a carpenter at the job, and they didn't talk to each other. They wanted me to be the man, the guy in the middle, trying to resolve their conflicts. And I didn't know myself for what would go first, or what should happen first, or what is the right way to do it. And then they would, go against each other all the time, and then call me and complain for hours and hours. And that to me was, in a way, really difficult to manage, because I was as stressed with the investment and the renovations and everything going on. And then I had these, I would say, stupid problems to resolve every second day, where somebody promised something that would be done, and I scheduled the next trade. And then, he comes in and says, oh, this hasn't been completed. This should have been done this way. And then I called this guy and I said, did you finish it? And he's like, yeah, I finished it the way I thought is the best way to finish it. And so they didn't see eye to eye. And then I had to resolve all these conflicts. And the first one was a bit of a pain.
Yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing. Like, people don't ever really think about this stuff. And of course, if you hire a GC, you pay a premium, but you kind of avoid having to hear it. But yeah, I'll deal with that. I mean, deal with trades, because you deal with, say, a company that has many people that work for them. One day you get an employee that's having a bad day. They do something that sabotages another worker's work, and now all of a sudden I'm getting a bill for extras, and there's bickering on the job site and stuff. And these are things that are not fun. You know what? You try and weed these things out as they come. If you have people like that, you just kind of pluck them out and you don't bring them back. That's generally been my approach. Like, no matter how good or cheap a trade is, if they cause job site problems, it's not worth it.
It's not that worth it.
It's just not worth it, right? It's like, how many headaches are you going to cause in your life? But lately I've just been on a real kick for just hiring good help across, everything. I've made like 3 key hires in the last month, and just like trying to simplify life. And I'm hoping that that I can start to see my time back again, because I feel like I'm so far gone with like just overwhelm. I have been for so long that it's like almost just starting to see the surface again. And I can only imagine what I'll be able to accomplish once I get that happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can only focus on so many things in a day, right? And then I think especially, and by the way, congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
So with the kid coming in, I think it just makes it even more harder.
Yeah.
to be as productive as you were before. And
Yeah.
it's for the right reasons, right? This is important. This is, more important in your life than everything else
Yeah.
that's going on. And you can outsource everything else and not this, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to go.
Yeah. So I have like a couple of like key inspirations right now. Like for sure, like my son, he opened my eyes because I knew I was already like just struggling to
Busy.
keep up. Like there were things like that I'll just avoid, right? Like certain things that I just don't enjoy doing anymore. As I get a little bit busier, it's like, oh, I really don't want to do that. Like a lot of things to do with my bookkeeping, which I used to quite enjoy. And then now it's just like, no, I'm not really enjoying that anymore. I really want to delegate any of
Becomes
that
a
off.
job, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've managed my assistant is now doing a lot more of that, so I'm less involved, and it just as one of and more of those things get lifted off my plate, it helps. But my son inspired all that because I knew that I was already at a point where I'm like, this is too much. Like
It's gonna
everything is
happen.
too much.
Yeah.
Like how am I going to have time to be with him when I can barely keep up with my work schedule as it is? So,
It
um,
was it was the same for me. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my son actually, so he was born and he was, I think, a year old when I started on this journey. And
Mhm.
our first house, I used to, work Monday to Friday. And those were also the times when we used to go to the office. So from Burlington takes about an hour each
Mhm.
way to downtown. So I would effectively be, exhausted during the week every day. So I wasn't able to spend a lot of time with him. And then he would sleep anyways, 6:37 because he was still one.
Mhm.
And then on the weekend, I was out. I was just going out, doing all the work that I was doing, on this property. And so my entire weekend was there. And so I would rarely see him. And within a month or two, as I was going through this project, I realized it wasn't worth like that time put towards the property and having to, like saving that much money on not hiring a GC just wasn't worth it. And
Mhm.
so the next property I just, switched. I made sure that my numbers worked in a way where paying for the GC was,
Mhm.
built into those numbers. And if I had to pay a little extra and leave all that, let's say, money into the deal, I was fine with it.
Yeah.
It was just worth
Right.
spending time at home.
Yeah, no matter what, you got to hire help. Now, like if you're your own GC, that does not mean you swing your own hammer. You can to
Yeah.
start if you want to learn, which at your own risk, as you've seen. But
Yeah.
yeah, you got to hire teams, right? You got to have good people around you. And like
Yeah.
for me, big thing's been good site supervision, like good people on eyes and ears on site, managing people, and
Exactly. I mean,
managing
if
defects and making sure things get fixed.
yeah, and there's like, there's a small difference, right? I mean,
Mhm.
if you're doing everything yourself, that's a job. If you
Mhm.
have people doing it for you, that's a business.
Mhm.
You've got to decide if you
Yeah.
want to do real estate as a job or real
Oh
estate as
yeah.
a business,
100%.
right? And
And yeah,
make that switch.
the other quote that goes with that one, if you don't have an assistant, you are one.
Yes. If you don't have a help, you're basically helping yourself.
That one hurt. That one hurt when I somebody said that to me like shortly before I just hired my assistant. I'm like, you're right. I gotta stop.
I think
Yeah,
I really don't know how you survived without one for
I
so
don't
long.
know. I really
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah,
you've been busy for so long. I guess you probably needed one much
almost
before.
used to it, right? Yeah, like my so I brought on a longtime friend of mine as an operations manager in my company just because he started yesterday, and
Nice.
he like looked at what I've been doing. He's like, I have no idea how you manage what you do.
Yeah,
Like I
I
don't
don't know
either.
how you survived it. Yeah, right.
What's
But
wrong
but
with
good
me?
good that
Yeah.
you've got the right help
Yeah.
now.
No, I'll have to thank Welly when he's old enough that he inspired that. But I think because once I started, it was like first hire. Okay, well now we're gonna hire a full time sort of media guy, and then from there it was okay. Well now operations are the next thing. Like operations need we need more help, and a lot of it's a leap. But I think once I saw how helpful and how much my time like one good employee could bring back, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I need
Right.
more. And it goes for anything, right? Like one good tradesperson. Like I remember when
Yeah.
I first hired, like you know the pain of managing trades, and then you finally find a good site super and a good contractor, and then you're like time is completely back to you. And
Right.
now all of a sudden it's like, okay, wow, what opportunities could I take advantage of now? Now instead of doing one project, I could do five.
More projects.
Yeah.
And then you're basically finding work for them. Once
Yeah,
you've got
exactly.
good people, you want to keep them, and then you're basically
Hmm.
focusing on finding work for them. But you got to realize as you're finding work for them, you're
Hmm.
basically creating more for yourself. Like not work,
Yeah.
but whatever you're doing it better. It's
Hmm.
helping you grow as well.
Hmm. yeah, I'm optimistic that if I could create enough systems and processes and then have the team members that can execute on them, I could actually get less busy. I was
Less busy to find something to get more busy.
right, but I was talking to Kellen Panicha, if you know that name. He's been
Yeah.
on the podcast a couple times. I hadn't talked to him in like a year, maybe a year and a half, because he kind of went radio silent on social, and we just hadn't crossed paths. And he's acquired more and more property and does nothing. Like he's like, yeah, I don't really have to do much. I don't mean to say nothing. I shouldn't say that, but he's like, yeah, I don't really have much to do. I'm like really? He's like, yeah, the average day, get out of bed at like 9 or 10, like hang out around the house, go in the hot tub.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
he's hit that financial independence thing. He's like, I hire out anything I have to do. Like I have a GC that does everything, property manager does everything. He used to manage his own stuff. So he's gone from being, you know, he was already in a position where he'd achieved what you'd call FIRE, like financial independence, and was busy. And then he just kept delegating, and now he's to a point where he's like not, but he'll still buy new stuff, but his existing team can do it. So he's not super aggressive, not super active trying to find stuff, but is making it
Going
happen.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I think
to
that's
see
ideal.
people like that, right? You see people like that and you're like, okay, it is possible. It is possible to,
Yeah.
you know, grow your business and get less busy at the same time.
So I think somewhere when you start your journey, getting that time freedom, which is also kind of my why, is the goal. But then
Mhm.
somehow it doesn't happen, right? You start with it, you get yourself to a point where you can almost, get yourself out of, let's say, a 9 to 5, if that's what you're doing. And then that business shouldn't replace that 9 to 5, but it ends up doing that. And so
Mhm.
it defeats the purpose for why you did it in the first place. I kind of see myself in the same place
Mhm.
right now, where I feel like if I, stop my 9 to 5, I don't want to be in a place where I want to do this other, real estate stuff all the time, because then I've really not helped myself. I've just created
Mhm.
another job for me. But then I need to grow it in a way, or build it in a way where I'm able to, delegate, be able to afford the help that I need to then, have them run the
Mhm.
business. And then I just, take a seat back.
Yeah.
I occasionally help, I drop in as I want to, but not, but by choice, not because I have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Work Week. I remember reading that, and somewhere in there he gave sort of an analogy that the system runs, but he's like the mechanic that can watch over and make sure it's running correctly. But it, you know, it
Right.
runs without him, but he can always check in. And
Yeah.
I think that that's the model to strive for in a real estate business is remove yourself as a bottleneck for information. If people say they want to send something to me and it doesn't directly pertain to me but somebody else on the team, I'm like, no.
Just
here's who
send it
you want
directly.
here's who you want. You don't need to
Yeah.
include me on that email, just send it directly to them.
Right.
um,
Right.
and that's
It happens a
critical.
lot. Happens
It's
a
that's
lot.
critical,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean, one of the first things I had my assistant working on is basically eliminating people who email me, all like the extra emails that come into my inbox. Let's just start getting rid of them, redirecting them, telling them to email different people, just to simplify things. And
Yeah. I mean, even so when I started actually the journey, and again, lack of knowledge, I had my phone number, I gave to all the tenants, and they could call me at any time. And I used
Mhm.
to take those calls, and then I stopped taking those calls eventually, and then I made everything on the email. Right? If you
Mhm.
need something from me, just send me an email, and then I'll get to it as and when I can. If it really requires, an urgent response, just say that in the heading, but don't put urgent for everything, because then I'll start ignoring it. If it's a fire, if it's a flood, yes. If it's
Mhm.
none of those two, if it's just a tiny tiny thing, just let it go, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I appreciate that you care about the property, but so do I, because I
Mhm.
own the property. So I appreciate that you let me know if there's problems with it, but I'll fix them as best as I think I can. Because what I've seen is, for most of the tenants, or not most, but probably a lot of the tenants, everything is an emergency. Everything needs to
Yeah.
be fixed like right away. Everything needs to be taken care like the next day.
Mhm.
And they don't really understand sometimes the concept of how trades are busy. Nobody wants to do the smaller jobs. And I don't really have somebody on, like a payroll, just sitting there waiting for
Mhm.
this email to come and go and fix it. Right? It takes time to
Yeah.
schedule stuff, to find the right problem. And then in most cases, they don't give the right information. They will tell you something out of proportion, where the problem is completely, something completely different. So it takes time to go through all those, so ask the right questions, get some pictures, get some basic information, and then looking at everything, then decide who should this go to, who can be my person on the ground who can go in and fix this, and then arrange that. And even doing that has taken a little bit of time, but now I
Yeah.
think I'm at a place where I can do this. But then I still have some of these old tenants, the ones that I kind of got with my first property. They still work in the old model.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just kind of waiting for them to go
It's a
so
conditioned
I can.
response, right?
It's just how I've,
Yeah.
just how they've been raised, or how they've been in this place, and in the
Yeah.
system that I had with them. They've just stuck to that system. They'll
Yeah.
just call me for anything and everything, and
Yeah,
I don't like that.
no, and the best thing to do is just stop answering. I found that's my experience, and then just respond with a text if anything. Like if you get 2 calls, like if they don't leave a voicemail, then clearly it wasn't that important. If they do leave a voicemail asking for a
That's
call,
important.
I might text or email. I would actually do that for a while. One guy just kept calling me, so I would hear his voicemail, and then I would email him, hey, I noticed I had a missed call from you. What's going on?
Oh, I should do that. Yeah, I should
Yeah,
respond with an email, irrespective of how
yeah,
they reached out.
yeah, exactly. So
Oh, yeah,
then
that would be
you
nice.
sort
Great.
of, and I don't mean to make it sound like this, so please don't take this the wrong way, but it's sort of like conditioning a response. Like, if they're used to you responding that way, then they'll keep doing that,
Yeah.
and for better or for worse, right? So I think if you want people to respond with email or to send an email, I always would do that. They'd text me like, Andrew, this isn't working. I'm like, can you send me an email, because this text will be lost. It won't,
Right.
nothing will happen based on this text.
Yeah. No,
So
I need to do that.
yeah, so that all started
Good
getting
tip.
better, and then eventually the people who call stopped calling. And I did have one house where we'd get like a backup of a sewer or whatever, and I'd get a call at 2:30. I won't take that call, mainly because what am I going to do at 2:30? You know what I mean? There's nothing that I'm going to do at 2:30 that can't wait until 8 a.m. And I
Right.
can live with that, right? And if I have to, pay for $5,000 more in damages because I didn't answer the phone in the middle of the night, then whatever. Like, so be it. Like,
It is,
that
right.
the
It
odds
is
of
what
that
it
are
is.
pretty low, and if it happens, it happens. So,
True.
that's how
And
you keep your cool as an investor, right? Like, to be okay with
yeah.
these things.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, there's nothing I can do at 2:30 in the night. That's
Yeah,
so true. There's
right.
nothing
I
I
mean,
can do. This, I'm an hour away. This is
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. So if it's a crime, they'll call the police. If it's a fire, they call the fire department. What am I gonna
Yeah.
do?
Call 911 and have them handle it for you,
If it
right?
really is an emergency, call 911.
Exactly, and save your lives first, and
Yeah,
that's more important. And we'll worry about the
we'll
rest
worry
of the
about the
stuff
house
after.
later. Insurance will take care of that. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
So
pretty much.
yeah, it's funny. You know what? Like, you get there with your tenants, and eventually they get it. And that's if you're managing your own, right? If you let a property manager manage, then they deal with this stuff. And I really don't mind getting longer term tenants in that we just have a good understanding. But of course, the challenge
Right
is that as rents go up, now you got to pickle, because
now, you're basically stuck. Yeah.
you want to
So
get the
these are
higher rents.
basically, yeah, it's one of the early ones, right? Just the way I brought them in,
Mhm.
they're a little older, so they basically are not very good with emails. I wasn't even looking for them to be good with emails, because that wasn't a
Mhm.
condition back then when I,
Right.
gave them the place, and they're just stuck in those means. For the first bit, I did it because, anytime they would call me, I would worry about, issues at the property. But then
Mhm.
slowly, as you go through this process and you have a lot more tenants to worry about, you realize nothing is going to break the property. It's
Mhm.
fine. I mean, if it's a water issue, yes, get that fixed as soon as you can. But rest everything can wait, right? If it's a little bit of a like a broken screen, a broken window, or a furnace doesn't
Yeah.
get started up, just call Enbridge, right? It's
Mhm.
they're going to come and fix it. There's no hot water, call Enbridge, they'll come and fix that as well. Like, there's nothing I can
Mhm.
do about it. If you call me in the night, in the evening, asking me to come in and do it, I can't do
Right.
anything. Like, I'm not the guy to do it.
Well, the other
So
thing you
it's
could do, like, especially being as big as you are now, like, you have enough doors where you create a little mini website, a little WordPress website for you can even do like a free one at like Weebly or something. It's drag and drop. And you basically,
right.
put a policies and procedures, maybe record a video. Hi, I'm Ansh. And here's
How
welcome to the
to
new
do it.
property. Here's what you need to know. And if this ever happens, then you have a quick FAQ. And first, it makes you seem really professional. How do we pay rent? Here's how. You seem professional, and now you have something you can reference. If somebody asks you a question, say, hey, here's a link to my FAQ, and you just send them over to the website. Now they look there. And for my student rentals, I would always send out an email at the beginning of the year outlining everything, like with what the expectations were with garbage, how they pay rent, like if there's a maintenance request, who to call, if there's a plumbing emergency, like I have an emergency plumber, and that way they don't need to contact me. Like, and if they ever did, I'd say, here's the number for the plumber. Like I just text it.
So
I wouldn't
I've
answer.
actually, I've
Yeah.
picked all these bits and bits from you all
Mhm.
along the way.
Mhm.
So, getting the rents done automatically deposited. I use Pendo Pay, something that you basically, I think you were the one who
Yeah, I never knew
gave me
anyone
that.
who used it before me. I never knew of anyone who.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely sure I got it from you. I've got the system in place where there is like a welcome email where they come in for what to do,
Yeah.
what not to do, what's placed where. Then I
Yeah.
do like a checklist of, when I give them possession for what exists and note any issues, any problems with the property. Like all of that is so much more streamlined now. As I've grown, I've learned.
Yeah.
It's just the
Early
first
on.
few, it's the first few that, they haven't been through that system. They haven't
Yeah.
really, been conditioned in that way, as you said, and those are, a few issues I have, and I think hopefully with time.
Oh yeah.
And again,
they'll turn
with the
over,
rents
and
going,
then it's all over, right? Yeah.
there was a good probability it would happen, but to be honest, with the rents going up, I don't really see them going anywhere unless there is a need. I don't think they would move because they're so happy with the rents that they're paying.
Yeah.
They won't get that kind of a unit, that kind of a property now anywhere for that rent. So,
well, there's always cash for keys with your on place tenant. I don't know. You don't want to go there?
Possibly. Not with them. They've been good otherwise. So, the property is just doing fine as is. I was able to kind of, do a full BRRRR on it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Something I might do in that situation is I might just reach out to them and say, I've had to make a few changes because, and just explain, the old system, we were doing this, we've actually switched over. I'm going to ask that going forward, when you have an inquiry, you please do this, and then make it really easy. And then when they don't, now you're not just springing it on them because you brought it up when there wasn't an issue. You talked to them about it. And now you can, now when they do reach out to you and the old pattern, texting you or calling you when they should be sending an email, you can just respond, hey, as I'm sure you can appreciate, like I get a lot of texts and a lot of calls, hard to keep track of this stuff. Can you please send me an email just so that I don't forget your request or something like that, just to try and get them. And I don't know that you're going to have that much success with it. You may or may not. You can
no harm in
also,
trying.
there's no harm in trying, right? Yeah. Especially if they're going to be with you,
that.
because I could see that would be, that'd be frustrating.
Yeah. No, I'll do that. I'll probably go back to them.
Eventually, if you stop answering the phone, people stop calling, right? That is.
Yeah, I should do that too. Sure.
I know it seems mean, but it's not intended to be that way.
Sometimes it's just an instinct, right? I don't want to pick it up, but then sometimes I just pick it up.
Well, they habitually call, right? But yeah, I think for you, you got to resist picking it up, right? Be a little hard to get, and that way they just like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do when there's a water leak? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to call the plumber. Yeah.
Okay, think about what my reaction should be to when I get the call.
Yeah, like think about it, like if you don't respond to a call for 4 hours and if somebody said it was urgent, you call them back 4 hours later, like 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, don't worry about it, we figured out a solution. Oh, okay. You didn't need me after all.
Exactly. So next time, just try and figure it out first yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's just what I would do. I'm not saying I'm right. I just, there's a risk with any of this stuff, but such as investing. So, anyway, so you got to a pretty good number. What did you end up coming into this game with? So you obviously went 50-50 with the first deal. Like, what did you have available for real estate investing when you started, and how did that grow? How was that grown? Yeah, I'm guessing you refinanced, but tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So the first one that we did, and those were different times, different market. Back then, we picked up a single family home. It was like a raised bungalow. It was a 4-level backsplit, sorry. And this was in Welland. We picked it up for 320K. So I ended up coming in with half of the down payment, which is 30K. And my partner brought in 30K. And then our renovations were about, I think, 75K or so. Because we ended up GCing everything ourselves and bringing the trades in. We were able to keep the costs down. And then we did our own flooring and our own painting and some of the little bit stuff here and there. My partner was a little more experienced with it, so we could manage to control our costs And I think I probably put in about 80, no, so 30, 35K in down payment plus closing, and another 35 to 40K in renovation. So I think I came in with about 80K, and the same for my partner. And then we ended up refinancing that property and ended up almost pulling up out I think everything except, so all we left in that deal was 16K in the first refi, right? And once everything was back in, then I had the confidence to kind of go in and do the next one myself. But then I had only, all the money that came back, about 75K is all I had. So I used that 75K to do the down payment on the next property and use a line of credit on my primary home, like a HELOC, to do the renovations. And since then, I've actually just timed all of my deals in a way where I go in, I do the renovations, I do the refinance, and while the refinance is going on, I'll pick the next project. So by the time it closes, I have the funds available to keep circling the money out. And then, after three properties or so, all of the first ones were then eligible for a refinance as well, like a second refinance, because the market had shot up so much. I think I did my first property, like the second refinance on my first property that I did just last month or a couple of months ago, because I had, reached a stage where I had three projects kind of going in parallel.
Yeah.
So I needed a little more capital to work with. And so I refinanced that one and refinanced another one, refinanced my primary as well. Just, having all that capital available and then just deploying it as and where I need it.
Like refinance leapfrog. Just keeps going.
Pretty much refinance after refinance. And we'll see how the market goes. But I think I still have a good amount of equity in some of my properties that I haven't refinanced after the first BRRRR.
Yeah, I mean, nature of this market, although things seem to be changing. I mean, I am seeing some examples of properties actually going down. I don't know if you're seeing that too, but I think I wouldn't say it's hard to say whether we're in a buyer's market yet, but we're trending in that direction. Still seller's market probably, but
I think we haven't really had too much of a trend either way, because January and February were hot. Then March it kind of slowed down. April it has definitely slowed down, but it's just been 4 months, and I think we need to have a little bit of a run to know which direction we're going.
Yeah, and no matter what happens, it's going to be, it could be a slight slow and stagnation, or we could see a correction of even 25%, like 2017 in some markets. I mean, it went back up though. So it's hard to know where it will go, how far it would go down, and how long it would stay down. But I mean, real estate's always been a bit of a yo-yo on an escalator, as we know, right? It's up and down as it goes up.
Yeah, and the other thing is the rents are really strong. Like I think the market in terms of the rents has adjusted to where the pricing is, because there's always a lag on the rents.
They keep coming up.
Yeah, so the rents are being pushed now for especially the smaller units. I think 1 and the 2 bedrooms, they're really going up quite a bit now compared to where they were, I would say, 6 months ago or a year ago. And so if the rents kind of stay up, and let's say if you're not able to refinance the value out just because the market hasn't stayed the same, and you don't really have comps to go against, you'll probably leave more equity into the deal, but you're also now not getting refinanced. That means you have more cash flow. Because you still have a lower mortgage to pay, and so your cash flow stays strong. So real estate basically pays one way or the other if you make the right decision.
Yeah, you either got the equity in it, or you're getting equity out in your pocket, and you have less cash flow. So
yes.
Yeah, it sounds like you've grown yours significantly. Are you in a position where you could quit your job at this point?
So yes and no. I am in a position where I can quit my job, but then that would mean I'll have to take, the property management side of it, which I still kind of do for my properties, but I'm trying to build that buffer first so that I can outsource all of that, not be the person, who's managing it on the ground, have like a team in place, whether it be outsourced or I hire them, within my companies. I could go either ways, but I want to reach that position and then retire. I'm actually also not looking to retire because I love the work I do. At the bank, I work in a field that's growing very much. It's given me a lot of good opportunities. My team's good. So all of that is really, going well. All I want is the ability to do it by my choice, right? And not be forced to do it.
Well, there's nothing more risky than having only one source of income. So if you have the parallel source of income, it's like your choice whenever you decide to make that move.
Yeah. And then I've also been looking into some of the active strategies on the real estate side. So I just so my newest acquisition, which would be in Hamilton, my plan with that one is to convert it into Airbnbs. It's quite close to me, just 20 minutes. Not that I'll be managing it, but it's still closer, so it's easier. And I have a fourplex that comes with one vacant unit and one basement that I would be converting into a unit. So I'll run both of them on Airbnb, and if it works out well, then I'll convert the whole building into Airbnbs. So that should really help.
Oh yeah,
bring a lot of cash flow.
There's where you can start really crushing the cash flow.
Yes.
There's so much opportunity out there, especially on the short-term rental side of things. And granted, if there's an economic correction, less people are going to probably use Airbnbs, but it doesn't mean no one will. And especially if you're in markets where people still need to come in there to work, like Hamilton, people come and work at the hospital, things like that. I think that's still going to be fairly strong, but time will tell, right? There's no perfect strategy. At the end of the day, we all just kind of keep parallel or pivoting. Yeah, we just pivot until we find something that works, and then if that stops working, we'll pivot and figure something else out.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of what happened when. So I started first with the duplexes, and I think I did 2 of them, and they weren't working anymore. Like the numbers weren't working. The BRRRRs were all fine. I could pull out all of my money, but then the dent on my ability to draw more mortgages was down. Like every time I would do a refinance, the numbers weren't supported very well, and then my cash flow was kind of nothing if I was just doing 2 units. So I moved into triplexes. I did 2 triplex conversions. Did I do 3? I did 3 triplex conversions. The third one was actually the London one, which I then sold off, and then I moved and did an 8-unit building, which I'm kind of still working on. And doing that one, I realized while the numbers are so much better in a bigger acquisition, there's a lot more capital needed, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And then just for example, turning over 8 units is a huge ask. So I was able to turn over 4 units within 6 months, but the rest 4, to do them and to do the renovations, the plan was always to do the whole 8 units and then refinance. Now I've actually pivoted again because the market's changing. I want to do a refinance now, pull whatever I can, and then sit on the sidelines. And then as and when they naturally turn over, I'll go in and I'll renovate, and then I'll just refinance CMHC at the end. So you're always pivoting, basically, is the sense that, as the market changes, there's always a solution. There's always a way to make it work. You've just got to be looking for that way.
Right. It's like, what are you looking for, right? Are you looking for why it won't work or why it will?
Right? Or how it will, right?
And how
just ask the question.
Yeah. How can I make this work? And hey, I think we've all been guilty at times of not looking at it optimistically or the how-to way. And we just got to acknowledge that and then correct.
Completely
Very cool. Is there anything you would want to share that I didn't ask you about? I know we mostly just talked about mindset and basically team building and time management
building today. And tenant management and all those things. So nothing much, nothing specific actually, but a couple of things. So and I think this is something that a lot of guests before have said as well, or mentioned as well, is to always look for that why, right? Because there's going to be a lot of difficult times. There are going to be a lot of challenges, a lot of roadblocks during this whole journey. And if you are in this for the long run, you need that why, because every time you have a problem, you look at that why and it will make you find ways. So for me, and it's actually a little bit of a funny story, I thought my why was to be able to control what I can achieve in my life. And it happened because when I started this journey in mid 2019, and I started kind of learning about real estate, it happened because at my job where I was doing really well, I was putting a lot of hard work. I applied for a level up, like a promotion, and I didn't get it. I felt like I had the right qualification. I was doing I had a lot of good reviews, a lot of good feedback from management. They were quite confident that I was the right fit for the role, but then still somehow I didn't get it, and I felt really, really bad. And that's kind of when the switch flipped, and I said, I need to do something and I need to build something that I own, right? Where I make the call of what I get
Mhm.
from it or what I become from it. And so for 2 years, I've been thinking that as what my why is, and I've been working in real estate, and not that it has done anything wrong, but it was very recently, and so shout out to Corey McKinnon. I kind of joined his coaching program recently, and it's one of the first exercises he makes you do is to ask yourself that 7 whys question. And I did that exercise and realized that being able to control what I achieve was on the surface. It wasn't really the true why that was driving me. It wasn't the why that would make me get out of the bed, go out and do my site visits on a weekend where I'm missing family time and I'm missing playing with my son. I would just do that because there is something deeper than just that. And as I dug further into it and went deeper, I realized so time freedom is what my actual why was. But there was not to say that I want to control my schedule. My time freedom actually came from a feeling much deeper, which was growing up in India. We had a good childhood. We come from I would say middle class, lower middle class kind of a family. My parents actually came from nothing, and they did they worked all their lives, both my mom and my dad, and they put in a lot of hard work to give us a good life, a good education, a good home. But in order to do all of that, my parents had to really sacrifice their life, sacrifice their time. Especially my dad, he used to work Monday to Saturday, 8 in the morning to 8 in the night. Right, he had 12-hour shifts, and it was painful. So he was never around. He was always busy. He was doing it for us, right? So I'm grateful for what he did, but he was not around, and he missed a lot of good time with us. And now that he is in an age where he's retired and he has a lot more time on his hand, we have all moved on with our lives, right? I have a kid, I'm here, my brother's here, and he as much as he wants to spend that time with us, we're not around. We're just we've moved on and with our own things. And when I look at my son and my own family, I don't want to do that. I
Mhm.
don't want to spend now working till 65 and then I retire, but then I look around and everybody's moved on, right? My son's moved on with his life. My wife's old. I'm old. I can't really go out and have
Mhm.
enjoy the same things I can enjoy today. Like all of that would be like it would be fruitful to see how what my son becomes and how his life becomes, but it would be painful
Mhm.
looking back to realize that I had all this time, I had all my life, and all I did was spend
Mhm.
a good 8 hours, 10 hours of my day at a job that is just a part of my life, like a
Yeah.
small part of life. It's not my priority. And
Yeah.
I've yeah, I mean that's my why. So every time I do this and I get a problem or I get an issue, I think about this and I just tell myself I've got to do this. If I don't do this, I'll regret it when I'm 50s, in my 60s.
Mhm.
I'll regret it. I'll look back and I'll not be happy.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you sharing that. And I can definitely resonate with that. I mean, especially with the retirement plan. People think that you can just work your whole life and then you'll have time. I mean, first off, most people are retiring and they're not financially solvent. Like they can't really live the way they
Right.
would want to. But I mean, there's no guarantee anybody makes it to 65. I mean, my dad only made it
Exactly.
to 60. And that's tough, right? Because he worked, he was a teacher though, so he had the summers off and stuff, but at least he had that.
Get time.
But I think we all need to make sure that we can enjoy life now because we're most physically capable now to
Now,
enjoy,
yes.
right? And
Yeah.
it's not like I want to do nothing. I enjoy doing deals, good deals, and doing exciting business, not monotonous stuff. But being creative and doing new deals and winning, those are all fun things. But you're right, like as far as a why goes, like I've often said the same thing. The time freedom, like my why is to just do anything I want at any time. Like I've always tried to peg it down more specifically, but like I don't know what I'm going to want to do tomorrow. But that's the adventure. That's the fun. Like maybe I want to go
Right.
golfing tomorrow. Maybe I want to go travel somewhere. Having that true freedom, um, that's a big thing for me. Now I'm
Yeah,
sure I
that's
could
a
dig
huge
down on
thing.
this further, but I always like the idea of just like every day, like kind of just saying, what do I need to do today? Oh, nothing. What do I want to do today?
Yeah, that's the best place to be. But then again, yeah. So with time freedom, see why you want that time freedom, right?
Mhm.
What drives you towards
Yeah.
that goal? And if you're passionate about it and you're true to it, you know,
Mhm.
any problems that you have, you'll be able to solve it. It
Yeah,
will
yeah,
never
I
be a
do. I
problem.
do need to dig down deeper on that. I mean, my son's a huge part of it because, like, I just think like, I don't ever want him to see me struggle about money or us have, I don't want us to ever say no, we can't afford that or do anything like that. Like, because that's what my parents had to say, and so for me, that's been a big part of it. A big part of
Right.
why I waited to have kids, and so that's certainly it. And then I didn't want him to ever say, "Where's dad? Where's dad? I want to play,
That is a
catch.
big
Want to
thing
do
for
something.
me.
Where's dad?" And
Yeah, yeah. That play with me, spend time with me.
yeah, I want to be able to do
I
that.
want to do that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to do
So I
that
work
too.
from home. I have the the fortune of being able to, like, he knows me just as well as he knows mom, and he still spends more time with her because she's more tending to him. But I'm here every day. I'm with him every day at some point.
They're
And
naturally
yeah.
inclined towards the mothers, but
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. He's gonna be a mama's boy no matter what. But at least I can enjoy this time where he still
yeah.
smiles at me.
I think as he grows, and that's what I've seen with my son. As he's growing and he's 4 now, now he wants to play more, and that's where
Mhm.
he would need, he would naturally come to you more because you're kind of the playing parent, and
Mhm.
mom is mostly the caring parent. So it depends on the situation where they need some, where they are hurt or something, and they definitely need their mothers first. But then when they want to play, that's
Yeah,
where he would naturally come to you. So it's,
for sure.
as he grows, he would, yeah, it would
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. I have no illusions about that. I know he's gonna be more inclined to mom, but I'll take my wins where I can get them. Anyways,
Right.
Anch, where do people reach you? Where should we send them?
Yeah, so the best place to reach me would be on Instagram. My ID is Ansh Sach, and my website is vgrowre.com. So that's vgrow real estate. That's the name
Okay.
of my company. So that's my website. They can just reach out to me and contact me through that as well. I'm active on Facebook as well, but that's more kind of my personal site. So I don't really
Okay.
do a lot of real estate through there. Uh, but I know there's a lot of people who connect me with me through that as well, so they can reach out to me. But I'm on Facebook with my actual name, Himanshu. But
Okay.
Instagram and my website is the best way.
Thank you very much for doing this. I know it was a long time coming. I know we've been trying to put this together for a while, so it was great to talk to you.
Same here, same here. And I think this is probably the first episode, at least since I've been listening to you, we haven't done the numbers. I mean, I was just preparing all that in the background, but yeah,
Preparing for
maybe we'll do it
numbers.
another time.
Yeah, we could do it another time. You know what? Not
Yeah,
all of them. Not all of them do we go into numbers. We do often, but today I
often.
thought
Yeah,
was a really good qualitative discussion. So I appreciate it.
same here. Thank you so much
All
for
right,
having me.
we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.